Hey guys, it's your girl Kizzy Rock, and yes, Kizzy Rock is my birthday given name. Happy Saturday. Want to say hey to all my subscribers, new as well as seasoned. I got a word for you. Tap in. Happy Saturday, guys. Happy second recording. So I'm responding to an email that I was supposed to make a recording for earlier last week, and I totally forgot. I've been really busy lately, so my apologies sincerely. Okay, so she's a fairly new subscriber, but she saw one of my videos and she said that she heard me say that I have choices. You have choices. And she said, as great as that sounds, that's not her reality. In fact, she's having a hard time meeting one guy for whatever reasons. And so she wanted me to elaborate. What do I mean by that? And kind of just go a little more deeper. Okay, sis, since you are a more new subscriber, to just catch you up, I'm one of the women, probably not many, I guess, if you will, who feels as if God, you're how can I word this without like trying to offend? Okay, so we all were born for purpose. Each and every one of us. Personally, I believe that purpose is completely separate from marriage, relationships, things like that. Now, I do believe when we are aligned with our ordained spouses, the individual that God has for us, and we're spiritually connected, that those purposes just merge and just, take off, right? But as women, some women fall under the guidelines that they kind of just want to fall into the narrative of what society says about women have to be married by a certain age or have children, etc., etc. And in saying that, a lot of women, men as well, but I'm kind of speaking about women right now, will sometimes ignore as well as abort their purpose because they're tied up within the marriage, within the family, children, etc., etc. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I'm trying to make a point here. In fact, I do believe some individuals, marriage is purpose for them, right? Children is purpose for them. So it's about identifying your own specific purpose prior to getting married, etc., etc. God can actually use you more when you are not married. God can use you in so many different ways. If, all caps, if that is God's plan for your life. Again, God may call you to marriage very early. He may call you to marriage at 20. But that's not for everybody. But the individuals who don't feel like they're not called to marriage in a very, very early season, society, if you're not someone like myself or some of you who march to the beat of your own drums and who make your own rules, etc., etc., and you don't let all that stuff get into your head, then some women will find a challenge with that, and then they'll just take the first thing smoking just because society says they should be married, etc., etc. And then what happens? These women end up in marriages. Again, not all women, because some women, again, do it right. They're fulfilled, etc., etc. But these women who have not identified their purpose and truly who they are, they end up in these marriages just to become miserable a year in, if that. And then what happens? They start pressing upon the man. I am not happy. You don't make me happy. I don't feel fulfilled. Now there's ruckus in the household because she's expecting her husband to make her happy. She's expecting her husband to fulfill her. That's impossible. That's absolutely impossible. Purpose fulfills you. Your relationship with God fulfills you. Your mate, your partner, your spouse, in my opinion, is an addition, not a completion. A beautiful, beautiful addition when done correctly, but it's not a completion. only job, only job, only God in purpose can complete you. So once you tap into purpose, there's only a certain man for you. You can meet 50 men per day, right? There's a lot of men. You know what? I hear women say frequently that there's just no men out here. I don't know where they're hiding from, because I mean, I see them all the time. There are a lot of men out here. The question is, are you tapped in enough to recognize that they all ain't for you? So you can meet 50 a day, and out that 50, 0 is for you. You have choices. But the choices is because if you're tapped in purpose, you know what aligns with your purpose, right? I knew early on that God would use me very non-traditionally. I knew that. I didn't know in what way. I didn't know. I just was always good at following the promptings. I was always intrigued by the promptings. So God just always graced me where I guess the outside world couldn't get in my ear. Not saying I had anybody saying that to me, you got to get married. I never really had that, because I think people just know who I am, how solid I am and who I am. But even just the noise from just the outside world in general, it just never got to me, I guess, because again, God just graced me to know that I wouldn't just follow the traditional path, if you will. So when I got proposed to twice, again, like I stated in prior recordings, these were great guys, right? They were great guys, but they just weren't my husband. How do I know that? Is because, one, even though I didn't know in its entirety how God would use me in so many different ways when it comes to purpose, I just knew that God was using me I couldn't see the whole picture, but I knew the direction, and it wasn't in alignment with it. Also, most importantly, our spirits were not connected spiritually. There's a difference between spiritual connection and just chemistry, right? We had great chemistry, had great times. I mean, we're still cool to this day, seriously, right? They're probably listening now. There's no hard feelings. It's all love, seriously. But I think the biggest thing that I'm proud of for myself is, even before I got even more spiritually inclined and more elevated, I have just always been aware of the promptings without just following the promptings. If God says do something, I do it without having to see the whole picture. I think a lot of people get stuck there because God may tell you, hey, go relocate. God may say do this. God may say do that. Go help this person. He'll tell you to do something, but it doesn't even make sense sometimes. At the beginning, it doesn't make sense. So people feel as if where am I going? Why am I going there? Right? I'm comfortable here. I don't know what's on the other side there. Well, with me, there was always something in me where I would always feel the internal nudge and prompting to do something. And even when I couldn't understand it, even trying to explain to these gentlemen why I have to say no. Right? And then they're looking at me like, what do you mean? Every woman in the world wants to be married. Every woman in the world would love this, right? No, you're probably right. Or no, you're not right, because it's not every woman, right? Marriage is not the end game for every woman. Most, yes. But people are so clueless, and people just don't understand that there's different perspectives with people in general. It's not the end game for every woman. However, I think it's very, very, very important to be fluid. Like, okay, this season God is using me specifically for purpose. This season God is using me specifically for serving. And then you have to be fluid. God might tap you 6 months from now and say, all right, well done in the season of serving. Now I need you to be in the season of marriage. Well, if that's the case, let's go. Because even though you don't have the desire now, God changes our desires based on our seasons. So again, when people say things like God give you the desires of your hearts, that's true. But I think some people want to, I don't know, maybe some people have experienced God giving them the desires that they had prior to the call. But with me, if I really try to think back on some things, I don't ever really remember God getting behind any of my desires. It was more my own determination. And yes, I made things happen, but there wasn't that peace and that alignment with it. It was always a struggle, always stressful, etc., etc. But then once you answer the call, whatever God has designed for you, it changes your desires. It changes your desires. Your mindset is different. So because now you're in alignment, now things are flowing. Not to say you won't get stressed, but it's a whole different kind of stress. So when you wait on your season, if God calls you to marriage, when you wait on your season, because you're not desperate out here trying to just take anybody's number. Again, I say this all the time, and I mean this, and I live by this, right? I mean a lot of men, respectfully. I mean a lot of men, let it be through purpose, just let it be just men, just being men or whatever, right? I think it's extremely important to be very down to earth, be very nice, be very kind, right? Not all snobby. And even if you know these men are just not for you, right? You still got to have a level of just humbleness, if you will. But you know that there's a certain type of man for you. And even if you haven't met this man yet, your spirit tells you. And you will be willing to wait on that, because the others just can't do it. I mean, they can do it. No pun intended. I mean, they can do it. They can look great on your arms, I guess, if that's what you want. They can pay your bills, I guess, if that's what you want. But they're not going to fulfill you after a certain period of time. And now you're sitting here stressing this man out because he doesn't make you happy. He doesn't fulfill you, which is not his job. Or he's tapped into his purpose, so he's gone, or he's traveling a lot. And you're sitting in the house, and now you want to file for divorce because he doesn't make you happy. It's not his job. Your job is to be tapped in your purpose, have your relationship with God, which in turn fulfills you. So when God collides the two, you guys recognize each other for one, and then it's an addition. It's an addition. So when he's gone, you're doing your thing because you got stuff to be doing, right? Until God merges the purposes or whatever, you got your own stuff to be doing. You should be doing that now. Like, I get so many messages about women who's like, God promised me a husband and X, Y, and Z. And then when I challenge them to say, oh, great. God put that desire in your heart for a reason. So great. But what are you doing right now? Oh, well, I'm just waiting. But okay, so tell me what all you have in order. And it's almost like nothing. It's like they're just waiting for the man to just find them. And then when the man finds them, I mean, they have absolutely nothing in order. Self-esteem is to the floor. Confidence is to the floor. Credit is to the floor. No purpose, no calling, absolutely nothing. And these are things that God have already nudged them about to work on. But I think what happens is the waiting or the frustration of not meeting the person yet, it burns so much of your energy that you just don't even have time to apply the things that you really need to be working on. Because let me tell you something. Contrary to whoever wanted to believe what, a certain type of man is not going to deal with somebody who don't have their stuff together. I don't care what the world says about, this, and that. I'm telling you now, a high value man, not speaking high earner, you can include that in there if you want. A high value man is a man of substance and character, which means it took him a lifetime to build what he has. Because if it was just given to him, let's just say he's a trust fund baby or whatever, he hasn't built that level of character and integrity, right? So he'll just be high earner, not high value. A high value man who's about character, who's about family, who's about morals, etc., etc., etc. They are just not going to allow a certain type of women access to them. For what? So you can come in and ruin everything that he worked so hard for. So it's fine. Be cute. Men are visual. Yes, be cute, be sexy, be all that. But you got to have some type of head on your shoulder. You got to try to get some type of wisdom and knowledge from God as you wait, so you can know how to prepare. Because beauty might get you there temporary, but it's not going to keep you there. Because there's beautiful. Go to the local grocery store. You will see a beautiful woman on every aisle. That's all it is, beauty. So we should be working on ourselves, right? Most importantly, asking God what you should be working on, because see, God already know who he has for you. So God will give you the downloads because he knows what this man will need, right? You might be a mouthy chick, no disrespect, just saying, you might be a mouthy chick, but this particular man had a mouthy mother, so it turns him off. So he needs a woman who, I guess you could have mouth when you're not around him, right? You can have mouth when you're not around him, but when you're in his presence, you gotta. So there's so many different things, but only God can tell you, because we want to sit here and think that all men like a certain thing or all women like a certain thing, right? No, each person requires something different, but only God can give you your downloads on how to prepare for that person that's specifically for you. So yes, you have choices once you're tapped in, because when you're tapped in, you know what's for you. So you're turning them down all day long. I don't care about your money. I don't care about this. I don't care about your looks. If it's not spiritually aligned, if it's not from God, I don't want it. But you can only feel that way, and you can only be comfortable and just solidify and just not even caring about that when you're tapped in. So yes, you have choices. You ain't got time to be desperate. You got work to do. You're chosen. You don't chase, you attract. Period. So yes, you have choices in these streets. It's your girl, Kizzy Rock.